Hi again. The break-even analysis is one of the tools that we use to find the level of sales that are needed to cover the costs. This is also called the break-even point because it identifies the point that causes a zero profit. An organization can make profits only if the revenue exceeded that break-even point. Losses occur if revenues are below that break-even point. The break-even point can be identified by making the revenue equal to the total cost. All right, so let's take a look into this here. You will see that the total cost and the revenue, the total cost in yellow here in this chart, and the revenue in blue. And that point in particular right here, as you see in the cross point is the break-even point. So if the revenue increased, added, if the sales has been increased, you could make profit. If the revenue decreased beyond that point, that would be the loss point. This is where the company will start losing. The break-even point can be calculated by finding the revenue equal to the total cost. And the revenue would be basically the selling price for one unit times the number of units. So for example, if you sell laptops for $100 and you sold 5 units, the revenue would be 100 times 5, that would be 500. The total cost would be fixed cost plus the variable cost. And the fixed cost would be something like that not matter how many units you're making or how many customer you service, so such as the rental costs, utilities cost, insurance cost. The variable cost varies with the number of units. So the fixed cost is fixed, such as the rental cost. The variable cost could be the raw material, which could be calculated by the cost per unit times the number of units. Putting these together and solve the equation for X, that will give you the break-even point. That would be the fixed cost divided by the sale price minus the cost per unit. So that would be, again, the fixed cost divided by the sales price minus the cost per unit to find what would be the break-even point. Let's take a look into this example. A finance manager works at a manufacturing plant in a small Iowa town. She would like to conduct a cost analysis in for one of their products. The variable cost for each item is $20 per unit, and a fixed cost would be the fixed costs are $12,000. If each unit can be sold for $50, find the break-even point. The break-even point would be the fixed cost, which is the $12,000, divided by the sales price, which is 50, minus the $20 per item. This is what would be the variable cost. The break-even point would be 400 units. What does that number mean? In order to interpret this number, the company has to sell more than 400 units in order to make profit. If they sold less than 400, they're not making money, they're losing money. So they have to keep this point, the break-even point, as the benchmark for them, as the baseline for them to make profits. If they want to make more profits, they should sell more than 400 units. If they sold less than 400 units, they will be losing. Of course, you could use the Excel. This example and this material about the break-even point is taken from my textbook, Economics and Cost Analysis. If you took the course with me, 3267, you will see more detailed examples about the break-even points. But here's some of the materials that will help you, short to the point, help you understand this concept. All right, so also again, as you see, you could use Excel to calculate and find out what would be the break-even point. Now, there's another thing that we could find the break-even point between two alternatives. Sometimes we're not sure which machine we should use. We have the two machines available for us here in this factory, but we're not sure which one to use. Well, there's something called the cost equalization point, which is a cost analysis strategy that is used to compare two alternatives to find the best alternative to select from. and this will help you to minimize the total cost. This analysis is similar to the break-even point, but is used in operations management to select the most economical production process. The cost equalization points helps manager to identify at which point we should switch from one process to another. All right, example here. So for the cost equalization point here, it's about 435. If we need to, if we are producing a quantity less than 4.35, we should use A. And if we're producing more than 4.35, we should use alternative B. And this is how we could justify our economics. To calculate the CEP or the break-even points between the two alternatives, we make the total cost for alternative or process number one equal to the total cost for the second process or the second alternative. The selection criteria are as follow. If the quantity is less than the CEP break-even point, select the alternative with the lower cost. So this is what you want to do, is select the one with the lower. If you want to produce a quantity less than, you go with the lower cost, lower fixed cost. However, if you are producing a more quantity, you're serving more customers than the CEP, you will go with the greater fixed cost and a lower variable cost. Let's take a look into this example. A fast food product developer has two strategies for a process to make a new sandwich product. Alternative A has a fixed cost of $2,500 for a new machine and a variable cost of $3.25 per unit. Alternative B has a fixed cost of $35,000 and a variable cost of 75 cents per unit. Find the CEP for this process and explain the results. So what we need to do, we need to make the total cost for A equal to the total cost for B. So the total cost for A would be $2,500 plus 3.25 times X. This is the variable cost, equal 35,000 plus the 75 cent times X. Now solve the equation for X. That would give you a 13,000. This is the magic number, 13,000. Now you need to decide if you are, this is the conclusion for this answer. If you are making less, if you're producing less than 13,000, then you should go with alternative A, the lower fixed cost. If you're making more than 13,000, you should go with alternative B, and alternative B should be selected. All right, with that said, I think I'm done with this. So please feel free to send me your questions. If there's any question you have, please send it to me and I would be happy to help you and answer these questions. With that said, I'll thank you so much for watching these videos, and I wish you all the best.